Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Singularity Lab. We have got a gem of a show for you today. I'm super excited about this guest. For those of you who are kind of new to the channel, this is your home for futurism, science, tech, breaking UAP discoveries. We've got an amazing gentleman who I'm going to be sharing his insights with you today. But first, let me welcome you all here in the chat. Thank you so much for joining us live. If you're listening to this in the future on a podcast, make sure you come back to YouTube. Check out the Singularity. Join us live, 7 p.m. on Thursdays. Renee, how are you? Matthew Wright, good to see you. Akashi Chris, Arlene, great to see you guys here today. It's going to be a absolutely stellar show. One thing I wanted to let you guys know before we get started, if you have a super chat, I'm going to do my very best to get to it, but I don't want to interrupt the flow of this conversation. It's going to be, this conversation is going to be coming hot and heavy, so I want to make sure that we absolutely will get to your super chat, but I want to make sure we don't interrupt the flow. So please, if I miss it and don't come back, just make sure you let me know, and I promise you I will get back to it. For those of you who don't know, we've got an amazing gentleman joining us today. His name is Jack Sarfatti. He is a theoretical physicist interested in the relationship between quantum mechanics and consciousness. He was the inspiration for Dr. Emmett Brown in Back to the Future. Sarfatti believes that we are extremely close to producing an anti-gravity warp drive. We're going to be discussing his theories regarding that, as well as TicTac UAPs. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, thank you so much for joining me, the one, the only, Dr. Jack Sarfatti. Jack, how are you today?
I'm pretty good.
Absolutely fantastic. Well, it's great to have you. And I know that we've got a lot to get to today, but I know that we've got an amazing video that you did that kind of breaks down what you believe the TicTac is doing and your ideas on warp drive and quantum mechanics. Do you mind if I just go ahead and play that video for folks so they can get a quick idea on that, and then we'll come back and we'll hop into the Q&A?
Please do, and let me just per my agreement. What you're about to see is a 10-minute or 9-minute excerpt from a much longer show by Gaia. You just go to their website. So I mentioned that's where you can see the whole thing. And this is only a short, fair use version of my part of the show.
Fantastic. Well, let's get this going. And then, folks, if you have questions, make sure you jot those down, bring them back, and we'll answer them after this video.
Even though the TicTac seems to be, from an outside observer, seems to be moving at, say, 20,000 miles an hour, it's not generating any friction. Like when a rocket comes into the Earth's atmosphere, your reentry problem, and it heats up. That doesn't happen with TicTac. See, that doesn't happen with the TicTac. The way warp drive is, it's like surfing on a wave. The wave is the curvature of space, the rippling of space. So the surfer is not really moving relative to the water he's around. He's moving with the water. That's the way the TicTac moves. But it's controlling the way the space is warping. See, it's controlling its path. And it does it with small amounts of energy. So the hardest thing for people to understand is that when you see a flying saucer or a TicTac, it's not an ordinary vehicle that's moving through air. It's controlling the gravitational field right around its fuselage. For example, if the TicTac wants to move to the east, let's say, if it moves to the east, what it does, it's able to contract the space in its nose and expand the space in its tail. It's folding space, sitting still in space, really. But to the outside observer, it looks as if it's moving.
In his scientific paper, Is Low-Power Warp Drive Possible? Dr. Jack Sarfatti posits the idea that quantum metamaterials may be used to produce low-power warp, while staying true to Einstein's general and special theories of relativity. Dr. Sarfatti believes he's discovered a workable way to fold space-time.
Warp drive is just a very elementary application of Einstein's general theory of relativity of the gravitational field. And Einstein's field equations basically show how you can use an applied electromagnetic field, like a source, a pump, and from that electromagnetic field, you can generate a gravitational field. The problem has been that that the coupling between the electromagnetic input field and the induced gravitational output field is very weak. I found a way to make it very strong. That's simply it. Using what I call metamaterials. Metamaterials are artificially made. They're made by man. They don't exist naturally in nature. They're just like lattices of artificial atoms. We make these artificial atoms. They're called meta-atoms. Various ways of making them. I won't go into detail. And we just construct them like they're like a neural network. It's like lattices, like crystals. And these artificial atoms are at definite positions in the crystals. And they're able to, they have extraordinary electromagnetic properties. When we impose electricity, so in magnetic fields in the metamaterials, they could go into what are called certain resonance states, and they can generate strong gravitational fields. So the metamaterials is a way of generating inside the metamaterial a strong gravity field from a very weak electromagnetic field. I've discovered, along with other physicists, mainly Keith Wanza, full professor of physics, Cal State Fullerton, we think we know, in principle, how to increase the coupling between electromagnetism and gravity in order to control the gravity field with electromagnetism, using small amounts of energy. The trick is, in metamaterials, we can make the effective speed of light very tiny, and by doing that, we increase the coupling between electricity and magnetism and the gravitational field it creates. So that's the trick. We're playing with the electromagnetic properties of metamaterial to amplify the effect of the input electromagnetic field on the gravitational field it creates. We can then, with theoretical physics, take a TicTac doing a certain maneuver, and then from that we can calculate what kind of gravitational field is required to do that. And then how much energy do we have available? And then we can design a metamaterial that'll do it. You know, it's a complicated thing, but with teams of scientists, we can do it.
That raises the question, how fundamental are metamaterials to understanding how UAPs maneuver?
It explains how those things work. It's pretty elementary, actually. But once you have the right idea, everything falls in place. There's no mystery. I am saying there's no mystery as how this technology fundamentally works. There's no mystery. It's just now a matter of engineering development of the right kinds of materials that we could use to amplify the effect of electromagnetism in creating a gravitational field. That explains the close encounters of the USS Nimitz, the Roosevelt, and apparently many other close encounters that are still classified. The machine itself is a conscious entity. So the hull, the fuselage of TicTac, is a special kind of metamaterial, which also, it turns out, is a conscious computer. It's a conscious artificial intelligence, artificial neural network. The metamaterial is kind of like the brain, like neurons in a brain, the metamaterial. So the metamaterial, it can generate a strong gravitational field, and it also generates consciousness. It's the conscious computer that talked to me when I was 13 years old on the telephone. I was contacted by a TicTac when I was a kid. I didn't call it TicTac. Now I know it's a TicTac. It was a cold, metallic voice, sounded like Stephen Hawking's voice. And it said it was a computer on board a spacecraft from the future. And that I was part of a group of young kids that they were contacting. And was I willing to be part of the project? And I said yes, although I was scared. But yeah, I'm compressing it. But the point is that they said that I begin to meet others in 20 years in the future, which is when I met Hal Puthoff. And the whole SRI, all these CIA guys, remote viewing, 20 years later, 1973. That story's pretty well known. It sounds like science fiction. It's the God-honest truth. It really was a conscious computer on board a spacecraft, a TicTac from the future. I came back. I go to SRI. I meet all these spooks from CIA. I meet, Hal Puthoff, Russell Togg, Edgar Mitchell, the astronaut, or other spooks. Okay, and I talk about what happened in 1953, and then they say, "Well, yeah, we think UFOs are coming from the future." What we're witnessing is our technology that Jack Sarfatti, me, and his team in California, UK, France, and Italy are going to develop in the next few years. And then we're going to shoot it back in time to 2004 and other time periods. We're seeing the success of our experiments, our theories, because I was told as a child that this was going to happen. I have no reason to think there aren't aliens, but I think the only advanced intelligences that are interested in humans on this planet are our future selves who want to come back, who will have to come back in order that that they don't disrupt the timeline. It's a self-creation process. In quantum mechanics, in quantum physics, you have to have the future influencing the present in addition to the past influencing the present. That's what non-local quantum entanglement is all about, the future influencing the present. The machine itself is a conscious entity. Well, what are the implications? What were the implications of humanity when they discovered fire? What were the implications of humanity when they discovered writing? What were the implications for humanity when they discovered gunpowder? What were the implications for humanity when they discovered electricity? Okay, what the implications when they discovered computers? Well, this is like that. This is the next step. This is the big thing. We're talking about surviving death. We understand how human souls are generated in matter. We understand that now in principle. We understand it. And we understand how these things fly. We understand how to manipulate space and time. We are the conquerors of time. We're the conquerors of space and time. What does that mean? It means the stars are ours. We are going to be men like God. The point is that civilization itself is created from the future. I call this the destiny matrix. There is nothing bigger. There's nothing bigger than this.
Jack Sarfatti, dude, this is an incredible story. I need you to break it down for us because you've got a lot of folks who are going to go, okay. This guy's saying that he heard from TicTacs from the future that he was going to be responsible for bringing these things into reality here and now. Jack, tell us about that experience. Tell us what that meant to you and how it occurred.
Well, okay, this is I was let's see. Well, actually, I have to go back in time. Actually, before that, my grandfather, when I was about 9, 10, 11 years old, so this would be the late 40s, like 1949, 1950. My grandfather worked for the U.S. Army. He had been in the Army in World War II, and he was working down at the Army Quartermaster Corps in the Garment District, around 14th Street near the John Wanamaker Building. That whole area down there, and I was actually living with my grandparents at that time in the Bronx. And after school and during school vacations, I would go down to play actually at the Army Quartermaster Corps, which is kind of an unusual situation if you think about it, because I had free reign of the building, and the building had laboratories in it, and there was like one laboratory for cold weather clothing, there was another laboratory for tropical, all this kind of stuff. So the question is, why are they letting a 10, 11-year-old kid run around this army base, this sort of army facility in Manhattan? And while there, I was meeting these army officers, and I was a bright kid, of course, and I was all into rockets. I was reading all the science fiction stuff, the magazines, the little 25-cent astounding magazines. Wish I had those magazines now; they'd be worth a fortune. And in any case, I think the main guy, and I'm not sure because because it was, after all, 60 years ago. I mean, a long time, more than 60 years ago, almost, 65 years, actually more than that, almost 70 years ago. And I think the Army officer I mainly interacted with was Colonel, he may not have been a colonel then, was Philip Corso. I don't know if there's that name. Philip Corso wrote this book, The Day After Roswell.
Right.
and Corso, he was an intelligence officer. Corso claims to have seen the aliens or the bodies, I guess, of the aliens after the Roswell crash. This was in 1947, and so it all it all ties in with that. Now, I cannot be certain it was Corso, but when I opened up the book the day after Roswell, that Bill Burns, who edited the book, it was a friend of mine, and I looked at the image of Corso, it struck, oh, that's recognition. So, take that as you want. So that was like 1949, 1950. Remember, there's only 2 or 3 years after Roswell that this was happening. So
right.
And then I moved back in with my mother in Brooklyn when I was about 13, and it was, I guess, around summertime. Must have been around, I don't know, August, early September, around 1953. And I'm alone in the
And
apartment.
how old are you?
But then I was like 13.
13. Okay. And Jack, just so you know, we had an issue. I guess there was a copyright claim when we were watching the video, so it cut out about halfway through, unfortunately. It shut our stream down. The stream is now back. People can see us, but they missed a little bit. So I just wanted folks to know. Yeah, go ahead.
That they shouldn't have done that because I had an agreement with them.
Oh, really? So yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was just YouTube. I don't know.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because it's under fair use. It's only a few minutes. The whole show is a 16-minute show.
Right.
And they wanted to pay me, and I said, no, I'm not going to be paid, but I want to use my part of it because we actually shot that part. My own guy videoed that part. So I claim we own that. So they shouldn't have done that. It may have just been YouTube.
It was probably YouTube. Don't sweat it, but I just want folks to know where you're at in your story. So you were talking about when you were 13 years old. Go on.
Yeah. Now, did they see that part? When did they cut it off?
It says it cut off about 4 minutes and 14 seconds. So I really don't know exactly what moment it was, but maybe you can just walk us through the story.
Yeah, that's going to be difficult. Okay, I feel like suing those bastards.
It's all right. We're going to have fun. This is the first world problems, my friend. We'll be all right.
Yeah. So, well, in any case, it was I picked up the telephone rings. I picked up the phone. It was a cold, metallic voice sounding like Stephen Hawking's voice.
Okay.
Hawking, the guy in the wheelchair, he just died, the relativist. And it said that it was a computer on board a spacecraft from the future, and that I was part of a group of several hundred, I think they said 400 young, receptive minds that they wanted to teach their technology to. And because we were going to build.
Did you think it was possible you were being, like, at the time when this happened, what was your gut reaction? Did you think you were being messed with? What was going through your mind?
Of course. I mean, I was actually pretty smart, New York City kid. I had a gang, I had my little gang and the whole sort of thing, Flatbush. So I immediately thought, oh, it could be somebody fooling around but then I realized that none of my friends were smart enough to pull that off. First of all, how are they going to get a cold metallic computer, voice? Also, I was reading about the early computer, the ENIAC computer. I had a book from the library on switching circuits, So I realized that, no, it couldn't be any of my friends because they were all, not as smart as me about this. And so it would have to be an adult. And, so I went along with it. Yeah, I had my doubts.
Right.
But in any case, they said, okay, when I said yes, I was going to say no, but I said yes. And I felt like what I later found out was like a kundalini, like an electric shock going from my base of my spine up to the back of my head. And I was kind of thinking no, but I said yes. So it was as though my brain was being controlled, okay, saying yes. And then the voice said, good, we're going to send a ship. Go to your fire escape. We're going to send a ship to pick you up within 10 minutes. Okay.
I mean, this is every kid's dream. I mean, this is my dream as a kid. I would have killed for this to happen to me.
Yeah, well, this really happened. Okay. But at that point, when I said go to the fire escape, I got spooked because how do they know there's a fire? I thought, oh, it must be some weird guy, some
right.
Kill me, that sort of thing. Anyway, so what I did, I got scared. I ran downstairs Yeah, right. Yeah, I was I think on the third. I lived on the third floor, big apartment house. Ran down the steps, and this is like Brooklyn, the early 50s. It's a whole. This is an Italian, German, Irish neighborhood.
Right.
You know, the kids and the parents look out for the kids. I mean, the people didn't even lock their doors. It was that kind of thing. People on the stoops. It was a warm night. Everybody's out, and I find three of my friends, Winky, my friend Winky, Al Bro is his real name, and two brothers, Neil and Norman Legata, tough Italian. Winky's like a tough Irish kid. He became a Marine. Yeah, then he later became a homicide detective in the New York NYPD after he was in the Marines, and and Legata, they could be right out of Goodfellas, but young. Okay, so I got my gang. I'm okay. We go upstairs. We go in the fire escape. We wait. Okay, you guys gonna come? We're ready for you. That sort of thing. And nothing ever happened. That was it. That was it.
So you think because you didn't go up to the fire escape by yourself when you were told that's why it didn't appear? Is that your interpretation of the events?
No, it's actually more complicated than that. It's a lot
Okay.
more complicated than that, because then 20 years go by. Remember, they said you begin to meet the others in 20 years. Okay, so the 20 years go by, and very weird things start happening. I'm now a assistant professor of physics at San Diego State. Let's see, was it? Yeah, 1973. Yeah, and with Fred Allen Wolf, who people may know, and it's early. I guess it was early 1970, maybe late 1972. That a friend of Fred's, a guy named Bob Tobin, who he went to high school with in Chicago, calls us up, and he's coming to San Francisco, and he stays with us. We're like living together with like the Odd Couple, living together. I'm sort of like Walter Matthau. Fred is like Jack Lemmon. I mean, it's that sort of situation.
So you were the sloppy one. I got it.
I'm the sloppy one, and we're young, and all these beautiful girls at San Diego State. It was quite a trip, and so Bob comes, and he claims. At this point, you got to remember, we're very straight. San Diego is a Navy town. Yeah, we were also working with the Navy, going out on ships, teaching, that sort of thing. It is very straight. Fred, basically, short pants, is a very straight guy. He had Air Force contracts, and
Right. So you guys weren't a couple of hippies in San Francisco. You were straight laced in San Diego. Got it.
Laced in San Diego in 1973. Never even smoked a joint. Nothing. I mean, we were innocents, babes in the woods. So Bob comes. He says, "Hey, listen, he's got a contract to do a book and a TV series about this guy, the Israeli psychic Uri Geller. The Israeli psychic was able to bend metal with his mind."
Right.
And he came actually to see Fred, but I was there, and he wanted Fred to consult, in physics. How could physics explain the paranormal, consciousness, the paranormal? And any case, so one thing led to another, and he said, and he had plenty of money. He had a lot of money. He said, cover our expenses. So he said, okay, we do it. And we was hanging out with him, and sort of, nothing really much happened. And then he went back to Chicago, and it's now the early spring of 1973. 1973. And I get a call from Abdus Salam, who is the head of the Imperial College Physics Department in London, and also runs the International Center for Theoretical Physics in Trieste, Italy, which was part of UNESCO and the IAEA, these guys. And because I had written some papers, he was interested, and I get invited to go to Italy. to Trieste. Also, at the same time, Fred gets a call from a professor he knows, a friend of his in Paris, and also at Birkbeck College, University of London, where I had actually been before. And he gets invited to lecture both in Paris and London, because kind of going back and forth. Okay. So here we are. Suddenly, we're leaving everything in San Diego and heading for Europe. Okay, so we're about to go. It's like the late spring. I don't know if this is too long. Let me know, and I'll try to cut it short.
Yeah, go ahead. Go finish up. We got plenty of time.
This part is very weird. In any case, I had a girlfriend at the time, and we were going to fly from San Francisco actually to London. And in the interim, my girlfriend's mother had a house in Carmel Valley, and I had a 2-week seminar at in physics at the University of Santa Cruz there. So I was staying we were staying in Carmel, and I just finished this 2-week summer thing at UC Santa Cruz, and it's a Sunday morning. We're leaving on a Wednesday. It's a Sunday morning. Sharon's mother brings in the San Francisco Chronicle. Okay, now get this. This is I'm in bed, but and she hands me the Chronicle. I open up the magazine, the San Francisco Sunday magazine, and there's a big article on Stanford Research Institute experiments and remote viewing with Uri Geller and all this kind of stuff. And I said, my God, this is just exactly what we're being paid. Why? Oh, also Bob Tobin was giving us extra money to also go to Europe. Okay. And I said, hey, this is what we're working on. Yeah, here, I'm just picking up the newspaper. Who's going to know if I'm going to read this article, right? So this is Sunday. So early Monday morning, I call Stanford Research Institute. All right. And this guy, Brendan O'Regan, he's a guy from Dublin. He's the secretary to Edgar Mitchell, the astronaut Edgar Mitchell. And he says, oh, yes, Dr. Sarfatti, we were hoping you would call us. This is now Twilight Zone. Woo-woo. I mean, how is that happening?
Right. And so this is so this is 20 years after the phone call you received. Okay.
Right on cue. 20 years go by. You're going to meet the others, right? Okay. Now, and he said, can you come up? Can you drive up to Menlo Park? We'd like to talk to you. So that right away is pretty weird. I mean, that's weird. That's Jungian synchronicity on steroids, right?
Right.
Twilight Zone. This really is weird. Okay. And I knew it was weird. It's even weirder now when I look back on it. In any case, I go up there. I meet Edgar Mitchell. I meet a bunch of these guys, Dean Brown, Puthoff and Targ. And in fact, and of course, this is a CIA operation, Central Intelligence Agency operation. Okay. And
were you not, when you started talking to these guys, did they not give you any warnings about talking about this, or was this then and now you're able to talk about it? Like, why?
I never got, nobody said no. This is all
no NDAs, no nothing.
Nothing. No.
Okay.
Never had a sign. That's why I'm free to talk.
Okay.
Okay. But the point is, okay, so you can hear, now it turns out there's a tape recording. I was there for like 17 hours, and there's like an hour tape recording, which is actually on Vimeo. You can hear it. If you go to my Vimeo channel, you can hear me in 1973 talking with Hal Puthoff and Russell Targ and these other people. And you can hear us I talk about my phone call in 1953. Okay. And they say, oh, yeah, we know all about that. We have, that happened to a lot of people, they say.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Right. A lot of kids. Okay. So they confirmed that for me. Okay. They confirmed it was real.
And this audio can be found on your Vimeo account, you said?
Yes, you can hear this. It's a CIA recording. Okay. You can just hear it. And then they talk about, time travel. We talk about, they say, I think it was Russ Targ, Russell Targ says, we think the flying saucers are coming from the future. They're time travel machines. Okay. So that's that. Okay. Oh, well, that gets weirder. Okay. So I go to Europe. All kinds of weird things happen in Europe. but well, one of the things they wanted me to do before I left, they wanted me to help arrange tests of the Israeli psychic Uri Geller at the University of London, because I had connections at the University of London, and that happened. That actually happened. Okay.
So they wanted you to set that up at the University.
Yeah,
They wanted you to set up the test with Uri Geller.
Yeah, like an advancement on a campaign, because I had been at Birkbeck with David Bohm and John Hasted, and Fred was going to be there, so I got Fred to help, and so that happened. That's an old. If you read the book How the Hippies Saved Physics by MIT professor David Kaiser, you will get that whole story. It's a well known story, and.
But you yourself were not a hippie, right? You're not a self-proclaimed hippie at the time. You were kind of straight-laced, right?
I'm what are you talking about? I mean, I'm driving Alfa Romeos. I mean, it's money. I'm not a hippie. I mean, a lot of women were hippies, so I would,
pretend. Yeah, I got it.
I was like, George, I won't go to George Bush, but in any case, W, he was hanging out in that area around that time, doing the same thing I was doing, sort of thing. But in any case, okay, so I'm in Europe. These tests of Uri Geller happen. I'm going back and forth between Trieste and Paris and London. Bob Tobin comes over. We write parts of the book. Yeah, it was a book called Space, Time, and Beyond.
Right.
It's like a cartoon book, and we're sitting in the Café du Magot, where all the writers used to be, and writing this crazy stuff, and then when I'm in Paris, Fred says, "Look, you have to come meet this guy." I said, "Okay, well, who's this guy?" And so we go to the Ritz Hotel. This is now, I guess it's like June of 1974. And it's a guy named Werner Erhard. Does that name mean anything to you?
I don't know who that is.
Werner Erhard, at the time, he was a big deal. I didn't know, because I had been in Europe. I didn't know but he was a big deal. He was like L. Ron Hubbard. He had a new age cult called EST, Erhard Seminars Training.
Okay.
So so we're sitting around. I'm with my girlfriend. It's Fred Allen Wolf, and Werner with the woman he's with, some attractive woman. I guess on his staff he's traveling with. The Ritz Hotel is like a 5-star hotel, and I'm sort of uncomfortable, and I didn't know who he was, and I said, "What do you do?" to Werner, and Werner says, gets up, and he's a good-looking guy. Looks like Richard Gere, the actor, very sort of Hollywood sort of type guy, and he says, "I make people happy."
I'm guessing LSD dealer. What do we do?
Well, I don't know. I didn't know. But in any case, I was getting kind of bored. I didn't know what he did. I didn't know who he
Right.
was.
He wasn't making you happy.
I had no idea who he was. Okay. And I get up, and at that point, I said, I'm getting out of here. I said, "You know what?" I get up in my Brooklyn thing. I said, "You know what? I think you're an asshole. I think you're an asshole," like that. I smile, And he what Werner does, he hugs me, and he says, "I'm going to give you a lot of money. I'm going to give you a lot of money."
Okay. For what? Why? How? I mean, what?
Yeah,
Is that how he makes people happy? I'm really confused.
Yeah, well, this is what he said. This is what and in fact, that's what happened. That's what happened. He invites me back. He says, "You have to come back to San Francisco." He's setting up a thing called, he wants physicists to study how consciousness is generated.
Okay.
This is all in the book, How the Hippies Say Physics. You get the story,
Okay.
From an MIT professor of physics who's a historian of physics. The whole story is in there. And that's what happened. Okay, but in the course of doing this, as I'm traveling, as I'm going back towards San Francisco, I stop in Philadelphia, and there's this guy, Ira Einhorn. That's a whole other story, the Einhorn story. And I'm staying with Ira Einhorn, and I go up to this guy called Andrea Puharich. Andrea Paharich was the guy who brought, he's an intelligence guy. He was Army intelligence,
Okay.
CIA type guy. He's the guy who brought Uri Geller from Israel to the experiments, of the CIA experiments at Stanford Research Institute. So in any case, I'm staying at Paharich's house in Ossining, New York, and Paharich gives me a book he had just written, a book called Uri. And he says, he gives me the book, and I take the train from Ossining with my girlfriend down to my mother's to visit my mother in Brooklyn. I give my mother the book. My mother's reading the book because Uri Geller was a big sensation. He had been on the Johnny Carson show. He was, like a rock star,
Right.
hanging out with Elizabeth Taylor. He's a charismatic guy, and my mother's looking at the book and she says, Jackie, remember when this happened to you? And I said, what are you talking about, Mom? Just all those phone calls you got from the computer voice, the metallic voice. I didn't even know she knew. I forgot that she knew. I said,
Wow.
and she says, all those phone calls, plural,
Right.
you got.
And you didn't remember having multiple phone calls, is
No,
that right?
I still only remember one. Okay. And if you listen to me on the CIA tape earlier, where I talk about the one phone call I got. I never
Right.
mentioned each of the phone calls. Okay. And then she says, no, what's the matter with you? She said I had about 3 weeks of phone calls, hours at a time. I was walking around glassy-eyed. She thought I was talking to my friend. She was busy. Well, she was working and stuff like. So finally, she got concerned, and she grabbed the phone. Says, "Who's this?" And she hears a cold, metallic voice saying, "It's a computer aboard a spacecraft, and they put your son Jack on. They want to talk to me." Okay, she heard the voice.
Wow.
Okay, and she got angry. She's a Jewish mother from there. She's not going to take any bullshit, right? She says, "Don't you ever call here again?" Slams down the phone. It's the end of that. Okay. So it's all talk about high strain. This is all very weird, but this is all God's honest truth. I would take a lie detector test. I'm willing to testify under penalty of perjury before the Senate Intelligence Committee, before the fucking FBI, whoever the hell wants to talk about it. This really happened. These are facts.
So where did this take you? I mean, so this is an experience that you had. You believe it 100%. This is a fact. Tell us what it meant. Like, what is this what drove you to start studying alternative propulsions, to studying physics? Like, what?
Yes,
Help us understand like what this makes. And we also got a super chat here. Thank you so much for the donation. Is your anti-gravity drive at all related to the Alcubierre drive? Yeah. And if so, how do you solve the energy requirements needed?
Okay, well, we'll get back. And the answer is yes, and that's a good question. First of all, let's finish, this. That's very good question. Okay. And okay, for serious people who know some physics, if you go on my Vimeo channel and my YouTube channels, you will see slides, lectures, and which all this stuff is discussed in all the mathematical detail. So I just want to mention that. But let's get back. You were asking me something, Michael, about what effect did this have?
Well, yes, exactly. So how is this part of what drove you in your scientific pursuits?
Well, yes, of course, because especially now I'm also being paid to do it. I'm getting money from Werner Erhard and also from Bob Tobin. I'm getting paid to work on this. And a guy named George Koopman shows up. In any case, what happens is with the money from Werner Erhard, the S Foundation, I'm living in San Francisco. I'm meeting other scientists. I'm working with a guy named Paul Sirag, Nick Herbert, and some other people. And I'm also introduced to Michael Murphy, who ran Esalen. If you know what Esalen is.
Yeah, out in California, got kind of a spiritual alternative group.
Yeah, in California.
Yeah,
and so this guy George Koopman shows up. This is we're about to do a month-long seminar in Big Sur on the physics of consciousness. Okay, And this guy George Koopman shows up, and he's runs a defense contracting firm in Huntington Beach, California, called INS Group. It's funded by the Army Tank Command and the U.S. Air Force. And he comes in. He says he wants to, contribute money to our effort too. He's interested in everything. And so one day, it's around Christmas time. Yeah, I guess around Christmas time, 1974, going into 1975, going to 1976. And George is there with a little briefcase, and I'm there. This is in the apartment right across the street from the Grace Cathedral, top of Nob Hill, kind of a fancy set of flats that was being paid for not only by actually was being paid for by Lawrence Rockefeller indirectly through his a close friend of his named Gene Lanier. We were living at the top of Nob Hill in San Francisco, about a group of physicists, and George says, "Okay, guys, here's the scoop." Basically, I'm paraphrasing a little bit. He says, "There are two things the CIA wants to know. Okay, how does consciousness work?" They mean physically. They don't mean spiritual stuff, religious or anything. They mean what is there in the human body, in matter that allows us to be conscious.
Right.
Okay. They want to know how that works, for obvious reasons.
Right. Science as well. I mean, this is the eternal question. Nobody truly understands consciousness.
They want to know. This is like MK Ultra stuff. Okay. They want to know because they want to control minds too. They want to, so no, there's this whole thing with Colonel John Alexander, the First Earth Battalion, non-lethal weapons, including mind control. Okay. All right. So that's and what you say is true too. Of course, we all want to know that, right? But they want these are top priorities.
They're looking for strategic advantages when it comes to
because the Soviets. Remember the Soviets.
Exactly. Yeah, the Soviets were studying it, and we wanted to study it too because they were studying it. We didn't want to be caught off guard, right?
Exactly. I forget the name of the which director of Central Intelligence is really into this stuff. But in any case. He says, and how do flying saucers fly?
Right. So that's what they wanted. They wanted to know the physics of flying saucers, and they wanted to know how consciousness worked.
Yeah, the physics and they.
And were these black projects? Were you paid through black projects? Like how did they?
We got money. I mean, they paid us. They gave us money. We never signed any agreement. Never had to sign anything official. See,
so money just showed up in your bank account. Like what happened?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It still does.
It still does.
Yeah. All right. Right. Okay. So the thing is that, I don't ask questions.
Okay. All right.
All right. So now, okay. So those are the two things that they're really interested in. That's this I was told. Okay. So yes, I've been working on this for 50 years, and various, and then various other plays. I don't want to spend too much time on it now. And you could look at. There's plenty of this stuff is online. There's one book talks about it. It's called The Stargate Conspiracy by Clive Prince and Lynn Picknett. There are a couple of Tim Leary. Oh yeah, Tim Leary was part of our group. Oh yeah, George Koopman. One of the things George Koopman was when Richard Nixon basically released Leary. Leary had been in prison. He was part of our physics consciousness group. Tim Leary was, okay. Which is an interesting thing. And
Leary was fascinated by consciousness, wasn't he?
Oh yeah. Well, also he had been Leary. I could tell you stories about Tim Leary. Tim Leary was paid by the CIA to work on LSD. The thing is, he wasn't supposed to take the LSD. That's what happened. I mean, he was a Harvard professor. In fact, it's pretty interesting because Leary I had actually sort of met Leary in 1960 briefly, but Leary wanted me to be part of the original CIA experiments at Harvard. I was at Brandeis in the early 60s. To experiment with LSD, and of course I didn't do it. I was very straight. I didn't do it. But the point is, all these connections been around me, for a long time. Okay,
right.
And I should also mention that at Cornell, when I was sent to Cornell on full scholarship, because of all these. Yeah, I should also mention that in high school, I was part of a government project of bright kids out of Columbia University. And also they were testing to see if we had paranormal powers.
Did you ever consider that the government was behind the robotic TicTac voice? Did you ever consider that?
Consider it. Yeah, I consider
the government was interested in you. Wouldn't it be an interesting trick to play on a kid?
Yes, that's the obvious thing, of course.
Okay.
However, what doesn't fit with that scenario is they predicted that something was going to happen in 20 years, which happened.
Oh, right. So the relationship with Hal Puthoff and some of the others that you started developing, which, that wouldn't make as much sense.
Which depended on a seemingly chance incident of me being in Carmel Valley and getting that newspaper and opening up to that page and seeing that article and calling them up. That's nothing they could have anticipated in 1953 that was going to happen the way it happened. See, so what that is, if you think about it as a detective, as a cop, remember, I said I watch a lot of cop things too, right? Mystery stories. As a detective, the best explanation is that it really is coming from the future. They're able to manipulate, time. It's time travel. This is direct evidence for time travel.
Do you have any? I'm curious because a lot of time, and I've looked into this a little bit, but I don't have that much information. But from what I understand, there are very few theoretical physicists who believe backward time travel into the past is possible. Do you have any specific thoughts on that or studies that you'd like to reference?
Absolutely. This is a big subject right now. If you actually look in the literature, there's a lot of now peer-reviewed papers in physical review about time travel to the past, closed time-like loops, stuff like that, in computers too. And it opened up because of Carl Sagan. When Carl Sagan was doing the movie Contact, he contacted Kip Thorne at Caltech, this big Caltech professor, and asked about time travel. So as a result of that, let me drink a little water here.
Yeah, go ahead.
In the I think it was the mid 1980s, Kip Thorne showed in principle with a few students at Caltech, which is the top physics place in the world, probably, one of the top places, how using Einstein's general theory of relativity, in principle, you could go travel in time, the whole wormhole, interstellar and all that. Kip Thorne then did the special effects recently in the movie Interstellar. So the Kip Thorne paper from Caltech opened up the whole thing as a legitimate area of study, okay? Now, there are several things. There is, first of all, in order to do that, it's called metric engineering. Hal Puthoff coined the term metric engineering, the control of space, of the gravitational field. The gravitational field itself is the shape of space and time. It's the fabric of space-time. The control of that is called metric engineering. And there have been two problems. One problem is that if you just naively look at Einstein's equations, the amount of energy required to do anything is way too large, impossibly large. Okay, so there's the energy problem. I claim I've solved that problem. That's where the metamaterials come in. Solve the energy.
Yeah, I'm interested to get into that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's also the besides the energy problem, there's the quantum mechanical problem. They claim that if you put quantum fluctuations in the gravitational field into account, there's what's called chronology protection conjecture by Stephen Hawking. But remember the key word, it's a conjecture. It hasn't really been proved because nobody has a good quantum gravity theory yet. In fact, there's even some doubt whether you have to quantize gravity at all, that gravity may be an emergent classical theory out of a deeper quantum mechanical level, but there may not even be a quantum gravity. So in any case, it's a conjecture. But now I claim that the recent revelations by the Pentagon on these TicTacs, that they are warp drive machines. That's the only way to understand them. And there are smoking gun evidence for time travel from the future. So that therefore, because as Feynman would say, a beautiful theory is often murdered by an ugly fact. The ugly fact that the flying saucers are real after all, that they're invading U.S. Navy battle groups, their restricted airspaces during maneuvers, and our Navy can't do a goddamn thing to stop them. This is a threat. This is a military threat. And it's not only the American Navy, apparently it's also the Russian Navy, and apparently it's also the Chinese Navy. And also there's plenty of now evidence that these machines have interfered with our nuclear bases. They corrupted our nuclear launch codes. So we have a superior military force that's here. And this is why is Senator Marco Rubio? Why does Senator Marco Rubio want to have meetings? Rubio takes it seriously. Why did Senator Harry Reid? They all take it seriously. And Christopher Mellon, who's of the Mellon family, one of the top, says it's a military threat. Louis Elizondo, they all say it's a military threat. What pisses me off about those guys is that they're blocking my information from getting out there.
What specifically are they blocking? Like, what do you want to get at? What do you want people to know that guys like Elizondo and Mellon are blocking?
Okay. Elizondo and Mellon, they're claiming this is a military threat. We agree.
Okay.
It is a military threat.
You agree as well. You agree that it is a military threat.
But they're saying that we have no idea how it works. They have no idea how it works. Okay. For some, they're afraid of me. They are afraid of Jack Sarfatti. Chris Mellon, Louis are afraid of Jack Sarfatti.
Why?
Well, that's a good question. That mainly because they're hiding their own ignorance. They're spooks. They're hiding their factions within the intelligence community. There are factions. There's a CIA guy named Ronald Pandolfi who's at odds with them, and Pandolfi's kind of a friend of mine. So this factional struggles going on within the CIA, within the general defense intelligence community, within the military-industrial complex. They're factionalized. They're just the way politics polarized. People like Trump, the people hate Trump. All this stuff. It's happening on every level. It's a kind of cultural civil war going on here.
Sure.
Okay, and but interestingly enough, is that it's a family feud within the Mellon. The Mellon family is one of the top families, the Illuminati, that, Skull and Bones. I mean, the people into those conspiracy theories, there's nothing more powerful than the Mellon family, right?
Well, they have money for sure. There's no doubt about that.
Well, more than the money. Something like of 100, John Warner, who's a Mellon. So Chris Mellon and John Warner IV, who's the son of the late Senator Warner, who just died. Senator Warner was married to Elizabeth Taylor, was the Secretary of the Navy, into UFOs, the whole thing. Any case, John Warner is kind of on my side, and Chris Mellon is on the other side. So it's kind of like John Warner, Ron Pandolfi, me, a couple of other guys on one side versus.
So, but okay, this is what I don't understand. What are you guys all fighting over? Like, aren't we all just interested in the truth? Like, what's the purpose of these factions?
I claim Jack Sarfatti's interested in the truth. I claim Chris Mellon is interested in hiding the truth.
Why?
And his I don't know why. Maybe because they're afraid. They're afraid to engage. Okay, let's put it this way. I could be full of shit, right? I could be wrong. First of all, in any kind of, I'm making extraordinary claims, but I claim I have extraordinary proof, extraordinary reasons. So if Christopher Mellon and Louis Elizondo and Hal Puthoff and Kit Green, some of them I know them pretty well. I've known years. I was in London with Kit Green and Hal Puthoff. But if they were doing their job honestly, they would meet like on a forum like this. They would meet with me and Elizondo, and they had this guy Eric Davis who kind of likes to badmouth me. He's another physicist. And we would have an open debate discussion of these things. I have a guy like Keith Wands, a full professor of physics at Cal State Fullerton, who's a very smart guy. They're afraid to engage us in debate in front of the public so we could see what the hell's going on. See, they claim that that nobody understands the technology. I claim it's easy. It's elementary physics.
Okay, so this is what I want. This is what I want to get to. What are the elementary physics that you claim that makes this technology so simple to understand? That's the meat of this. I mean, because that's an incredible claim.
Can you get into the slideshow now?
Sure.
You're going to show use a slide.
Yeah. Do you, okay. I'll pull up the video file. Hold on one second. Share screen. All right. So I'm going to pull up the slides, and just so everybody knows, these are slides that you sent me earlier.
Yeah.
That you wanted to share. Okay. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is from a slideshow. I forget when we did this. A young kid, David Chester. Okay, go to the next slide. Let me just see what I got here.
Okay.
Oh yeah, go back there.
Sorry.
Okay. Okay, this is John Archibald Wheeler. Let me explain who Wheeler was. Wheeler was like one of my mentors, also Kip Thorne's. I met him several times in La Jolla. And in Munich, I was in Munich at the Max Planck Institute, Werner Heisenberg's Institute, 1966 with him. And I'm just, I'm very much a Wheelerite in many ways. He says, in any field, find the strangest thing and then explore it. Well, there's nothing stranger than UFOs and consciousness, right? So that's what I'm doing. I'm doing what John Wheeler said to do, okay? And also, another thing Wheeler says is he was a professor at Princeton. Oh, and actually, I should say something very interesting about him. Go back to Wheeler for a minute. Go back. John Wheeler was the discoverer of the theory of nuclear fission with Niels Bohr in the 1930s. Okay, and in fact, in the Manhattan Project, he was in charge of Oak Ridge. The project for getting the isotopes necessary to make the bomb. So he's a very important man, okay? Nuclear physics back then. Then, suddenly in 1953, something strange happened to John Wheeler. At the same time I was getting my phone calls, okay? I think what happened was, I think Wheeler's cousin was General Earl Wheeler, at the time, Chief of Staff of the United States Air Force. And I'm now guessing, educated guess, that the military, and Wheeler was involved in the development of the hydrogen bomb too. He's a top guy, okay? Top security clearance. I suspect that his cousin said, hey, listen, we got this flying saucer thing here. We don't understand it. So they asked him, Wheeler suddenly switched in around 1953 from doing nuclear physics of hydrogen bombs and all that stuff to general relativity, the gravitational field. And in fact, it's because of Wheeler. See, up until that time, people didn't really understand general relativity. It's because of Wheeler, black holes, everything, warp drive, all that was because of Wheeler. And I think because of the whole UFO thing, because of 1947. Oh yeah, I was also told that the reason that the CIA was created, one of the reasons was because of Roswell, was because of the flying saucer. They were worried about that. That was one of the reasons. And I was also told by a very reliable source that one of the top guys in the beginning of the CIA, a guy named James Jesus Angleton, was very much aware of the UFOs, the flying saucers, and considered them a great military threat and collected all kinds of evidence about that. This is from a member of the family to me directly. Okay, so this is all tying together. This is all a consistent story, not just some nut, some delusional nut that's talking about this. Okay, all right, let's go on to the next slide.
Okay. All right, somebody told me there's another way to do this. Shift cursor. I can move through the slides on here, but I'm not.
I think you just hit that thing there.
I have no idea how this works.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. All right. That's okay. Let's get on to the next. Okay. Well, all right. This is let's look at this a minute. This is what's called a light cone diagram, and it's just a space-time picture of how the comic book science fiction force shield. Yeah, we've seen this in a lot of movies, like War of the Worlds. They try to shoot the flying stuff, the aliens, but the stuff just bounces off. And I think such a thing is possible. That
Okay.
potential. I call it the white hole force shield. That's possible. And after I did this, strangely enough, a guy named Matthew Visser, who's a top relativist, is a serious professor of physics in New Zealand, has come up with a paper where he talks about tractor beams and pressor beams, like a repeller beam, it's like a force shield beam, so that people are actually beginning to play with these ideas in a serious way using standard general relativity gravity physics. Okay, let's go on to the next one.
Okay.
Okay, well, this is more. Okay, this is this is more about the Navy. I suppose most of your audience already knows about the Nimitz encounters and the Roosevelt encounters, right?
Yeah, very familiar with it. Yeah.
Okay, let's go on. That's just stuff about that.
Okay.
Let's see. All right. Okay. Now, one of the things that warp drive explains is the apparent high G-force accelerations. And I was trying to say that, too bad they cut that off in the video because I explained all that. The point is, in warp drive, although to the outside observer, it appears that there are very strong G forces on the ship when it's doing a fast, high-speed turn. Inside the ship, they're weightless. There's zero G force. In other words, the apparent acceleration that we see with radar or just with visual examinations using light signals coming from the object, that's an optical illusion. It's because what's happening, the ship itself is simply freely floating through the curved space-time that it is controlling itself. It's controlling its path because it's able to shape the gravitational field in such a way that it just falls. It's like if you were to jump out of the window. I don't recommend it, but you jump out of the window, you're freely falling in the gravitational field. It's called you're executing what's called a time-like geodesic. You're weightless while you're falling down from the 100th floor of the skyscraper down to the pool below. You feel there's no weight. You're weightless. So, but that's because you cannot control the gravitational field of the Earth normally. But if you could control it, you could just fly like Superman, like Iron Man, stuff like that. So
is the idea here that the Earth has a gravitational force, right? Because it's mass. Mass has gravity. Gravity, it has a certain gravitational field, and then so what you're saying is an object like a TicTac, which uses metamaterials, is able to create its own gravity similar to that of the Earth, and so it's no longer within the bounds of the gravitational pull of the Earth. Am I?
Correct. Okay. That's exactly what it does. It's able to cancel the Earth's gravitational field with its local gravitational field, and it's able to control. It has to compute. It requires a supercomputer on board the ship to compute all this. It's not easy to compute it in real time, very fast. It's got to be. In fact, it's got to be a quantum conscious computer to do it. It's got to be much more powerful than any computer we have, and it's able to.
And what about energy? Because people talk about the amount of energy that will be required in order to move.
That's the whole thing. I claim to have solved that problem.
Okay, so the solution to that problem is what?
Is the metamaterial. What happens is.
Can you explain metamaterial? Can you deeply explain that for us?
All right. Well, okay. Let's see. Go. Go back and go back to. There's some slides that show it.
Okay. So you're saying the metamaterial is the reason that you don't need the amount of energy that one would imagine. That's what you're saying, right?
Okay, that's what I'm saying. But I'm saying more that plus a lot more. Okay, this is just this is just a quick picture.
Just tell me when to stop.
This is Wait, stop. Okay. Okay. This is showing that. Okay. This is why you need a lot of energy. And you can say space-time is very stiff. You need a lot of energy to control it normally. Okay. By the way, so people can see all this. If you go to my Vimeo channel, your audience can watch this on their own time, slide by slide. Then if they like, they can send me an email if they have questions, later on. Okay, so go to the next slide.
Okay. Just tell me if you want to keep going.
All right. This is more about geodesics. This is more about that if you can control the gravitational field, you can, which is warp drive, you basically freely fall, or freely float through the gravitational field that you're controlling and creating with small amounts of energy. So this is more about that, but come on to the next slide. All right, well, this is Einstein's field. Okay. Anybody who understands Ohm's law in elementary electrical circuits, you apply a voltage through a resistor, it generates a current, can understand Einstein's field equation because it's kind of like Ohm's law, where the voltage corresponds to that symbol TAB that you see on the right-hand side of the top equation.
Mhm.
That's kind of that's like the applied voltage.
Okay.
That GAB on the left-hand side is the induced gravity field. So you have like the TAB is like a voltage, and the GAB is like the current. Okay, and that coefficient, the 8 pi g, capital G over c to the fourth power. Okay, that's like 1 over the resistance. So 1 over that's like the stiffness. The reciprocal of that coefficient, c to the fourth divided by 8 pi g, that's like the resistance of space time to changing it. Okay, so now here's the point.
Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty lost. I'm just gonna be honest with you.
Okay, well, this is elementary. I mean, the point is this. Now a smart 10-year-old understands this.
Get out of here.
12-year-old. No, this is elementary algebra. This is elementary algebra. This is middle school.
Okay, well, break it down in layman's terms. Like, what does it mean?
Well, what do you mean? What does it mean? It means what it says. I mean, that's the point. See, that's why it reaches a point where, there's like a cutoff. Okay.
But you want to reach the masses, right? You want people to understand this. You got to break it down for them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how can I am that for me? This is breaking it down. It's breaking it down.
Well, just tell me what the outcome is. What is the result? What are you ultimately saying, and what does it mean?
Well, you have to understand. Look at that. You see that c to the fourth? It's in what's called. You understand what a denominator? Do you understand what a fraction is? A fraction.
Yeah, I understand what the fraction is, Jack.
Okay, look. So a fraction here, you have a fraction is a numerator. The numerator is 8 pi g. You see that?
Uh-huh.
The denominator is c to the fourth.
Okay.
Okay. C is the speed of light in vacuum.
In vacuum. Okay.
Yeah, but they think except it should really be in that. But right now it's the speed of light in vacuum. Okay. But now imagine if you can make that speed of light in the metamaterial very small. See, when the denominator gets small, the fraction gets bigger. Okay, like take the number 1. Okay, divide 1 by 1/2, you get 2. Divide 1 by 1/3, you get 3. Divide 1 by 1/4, you get 4. So as you make the denominator smaller, the fraction gets bigger. But that fraction, that's the coupling of energy of, in this case, the TAB. TAB is like the energy density, like the voltage, if you want. That's the couple. As you make this, as this fraction gets bigger by making C smaller, and that's what the metamaterial does, it makes C smaller. I'm oversimplifying, but again, and if this gravity field, you have a certain gravity field you need in order to cancel the Earth's field. Okay, so that's fixed. GAB is like a fixed quantity.
Okay.
That's what you want you to cancel the Earth's gravity. Okay, so what you got to do, but as you make C smaller, which is what the metamaterial does, you're able to accomplish that task with much less voltage.
With much less energy. Got it. Okay, so how much less? To what extent? Is it infinitely smaller based on the level, the micron level of the metamaterial?
Yeah, well, okay. Well, now that's the point is this. Now that's the $64 billion question.
Okay.
How can we do it? Now, the thing is this. We know we can do it because we see it being done. We're not controlling it. This is what the TicTacs are doing. You can say the only way to explain the TicTac is by this mechanism. And I'm not the only one now. Other smart people are finally, there's a guy who actually said, independently of me, he said these TicTacs are warp drive. He didn't know how they do it. He didn't know how to do it with small amounts of energy. He said, but he says, well, we're seeing it. It's got to be. That's the only way it happens. So the point is, even though we don't know at the moment exactly how to do it, we know that somebody knows how because we see it's being done. See, it's a fact that it's being done. We're explaining. Yeah, it's like there's a murder. There's a dead body, but somebody killed us. We don't know who did it.
Just because we don't have the theoretical physics to explain it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
No. We have. The point is, here's the big difference between. See, we have the theoretical physics. The theoretical physics is simple. It's like what I just showed. That's the theoretical physics. Okay, that's why Louis Elizondo and Mellon, these guys say they don't understand. That's because they're idiots. They don't understand it. They don't understand this. They don't know what a fraction is. They don't know they can't do anything. Okay, but they're in the government. All right. All right.
Well, lots of people have different jobs in the government. They're not all theoretical physicists and mathematicians.
Yeah, but the physicists they have are not any good. They're not competent, okay? At least the ones I haven't met any yet.
So let me ask you this. Have you shared this with other theoretical physicists in the government or people actually interested in this who have the capability to understand what you're saying? And what are they saying to you? What kind of responses are you getting?
Well, I'm working with one called a guy named Keith Wanzer. He's a full professor of physics at Cal State Fullerton. Yeah, he's working on this with me. And then there's a couple of physicists. There's a guy in England, a guy named Maurice Passman, who's a PhD from the University of London, who worked 7 years at the Ministry of Defense of the British government with a top scientist named Jim Moffat. Okay. So there's a journalist called Nick Cook who writes about all this stuff, the Hunt for the 0 point, and there's a whole group in Italy that I'm working with. So yeah, there's some young kids, some young physicists who understand it. But the point is this: there's several things. First of all, most physicists today. They're afraid of losing their funding. Okay,
sure.
It's changing a little. It's changing now a little bit, but there's still that big fact. Now there's this guy Avi Loeb. Avi Loeb, 2 billionaires. Avi Loeb is the head of the Smithsonian Institute at Harvard University. So 2 billionaires came to say, "Hey, we're going to like they came to me, but not as much money. Said, hey, we're going to give you some money. We want you to study UFOs." Okay, Avi Loeb. He's kind of an open-minded guy. I think he's an Israeli guy, smart Jewish guy. But he's not a theoretical physicist. He's an astronomer. He's an observational astronomer. He's this guy who thought the Urubundo, whatever that piece of rock, whatever it was called, he thought it might be a spaceship, whatever it is. He's a good observational astronomer. He knows his observational techniques, and it's good that they gave him money. It's good that he does this. But he's also a schmuck because he should be getting in touch with me constructively to talk. How can we combine my expertise in theoretical physics of relativity, which he knows something, but he obviously doesn't know a lot, because if he did know it deeply, he'd be saying exactly what I'm saying. Okay. So, there are political reasons these guys are already covering. That's why I left academia. I was on a tenure track, and there are a bunch of, the backstabbing, money grubbing assholes, as bad as lawyers, as bad as politicians. Okay.
Well, there's no room for anomalous activity in academia. It's very difficult to entertain things that aren't in the status quo or the currently accepted knowledge.
Yes, especially now, it's gotten much worse. Now, when I was a student, it was much better. In the 1950s at Cornell, and it was people was freely speculating, even in the 60s at UCSD in La Jolla. And the Max Planck Institute, it was much better. It's gotten a lot worse now. It's gotten really bad, especially with all this political correctness and the 16. All this bullshit that they're doing, and the gender this and gender that.
Let's stick to theoretical physics, if you don't mind.
But it's gotten a lot worse. It's become a very repressive culture in the universities. They're no longer, free speech is not, it's like being in Red China. It's like the thought control. It's getting very bad. Okay. And I'm one of the few people left who was unencumbered by that. I could say what I feel, what I want to say. Okay.
Right.
So
I agree. I agree with you in that one of the biggest challenges within academia, two things. One is dramatic overspecialization, where you don't have enough interchange of thought between different specializations within academia. And the other thing is getting funding. Those are the two things. And I'd rather stick to those than some of these other political conversations,
sure.
if you don't mind.
Okay. Yeah, of course.
But that being said, I'm really curious, like, when it comes to these metamaterials, do we have the ability to actually create the type of metamaterials that would be necessary in order to create a TicTac? Do we have that today, or can we have that soon?
Okay, now wait a minute. That's like asking in 1940, will we in 3-4 years be able to refine the isotopes to get the uranium and the plutonium we need, and will we be able to design a implosion mechanism to get these bombs to really work? It's like saying that. The point is, somebody's already done it. These machines are already out there, that they exist.
Okay, so they exist and they can create metamaterials to a specific micron.
Well, it may even be now the one useful thing that I've heard come out of Eric Davis's mouth about this, because he has some access allegedly to classified material. He says they find these metamaterials are down at the angstrom level, at the size of an atom. Much smaller, not even smaller than a micron, smaller even than a nanometer, than that tenth of a nanometer. Okay, and maybe smaller than that. Who knows? So the point is, that's the big development problem. Here's what we know. We know that somebody, some kind of an intelligence, and I think it's from the future, has this technology. That we see them. That's what the Navy is encountering in these objects. That's what Commander Fravor and those Navy pilots have been seeing directly. That's what Kevin Day.
Well, that's what I believe. I mean, I believe that these are physical objects that Fravor and Dietrich are seeing. Now, there is an argument to be made that there are potential holograms and things like this that we could talk about.
Bullshit. That's bullshit. Total bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't know what to believe, because everybody. I know, but everybody says they know. Everyone says they know.
Trust me, because I know what the fuck I'm talking about, and these guys don't.
Okay, so explain. If
they knew what they were talking about, they would say, "Okay, Sarfatti, I'm going to shoot you down. Here, you're saying this, but it's this and this." They're afraid to do that because they know I'm going to wipe up the floor.
They're not arguing with you on they're not arguing with actual theoretical physics. They're arguing with you, right?
They're arguing on the basis of character assassination. The ad hominem, or what they're mostly doing now. They're totally afraid to do that, because what they're doing now is simply pretending I'm not there. I'm the 800-pound gorilla in their room. Okay. Now, at one point, Eric Davis published a thing from anonymous. He wouldn't name the guy who was claiming to shoot down what I was saying, but then Keith Wanzer, who's an expert in the metamaterial and solid state physics, showed that the guy who wrote this, he was probably Eric Davis himself, was a total idiot. I mean, he was saying stuff that was clearly wrong. And this is a guy, Keith Wanzer has Air Force contracts, has many contracts. He's a well-known expert in condensed matter physics and the stuff around metamaterials. He has much better credentials than Eric Davis has in this field. And he's just exposed what Eric Davis was afraid to say, that he wrote it, or whoever did write it, that it was total bullshit. It was a total straw man, red herring bullshit. It wasn't true. So they're lying. They're hiding the truth.
For what purpose?
Well, I don't know. Get Ron Pandolfi to come on the show. Say Pandolfi seems to know why, but I let him say why he thinks it's that. Or get John Warner, Chris Mellon's cousin, to come on and say what he thinks is going on. They're hiding it. I think they're hiding because they're afraid to admit their own ignorance, and they're afraid to admit that Jack Sarfatti and his team have actually basically solved the problem. And why they're afraid to admit? Because they're afraid maybe we'll get the money from the government. Maybe it could all be over money.
So basically, what's holding you back from moving this from theoretical physics to technological reality is money, investment.
Yeah, well, yeah, investment. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Now,
Yeah.
then it's also ego. There's other egos. Now, Jeff Bezos, right, makes enough money in probably a week to fund the whole project. Well, maybe in a month. Well, but let's see, he's making $200,000 a minute or something. Jeff Bezos is, and he has this. He's going into space in his stupid rocket ships that he's going to blow himself up in. That's like a Polish joke. You're going what they build giant these little kids. They're building giant firecrackers. They're no good for anything. They're dangerous. Number one, they're dangerous, right? They're dangerous. They're going to
I'm
kill
with you, man. If we could engineer a TicTac, why aren't we doing it? So let me ask you this: is it just the ability to? Is it just the ability to get in communication with a guy like Bezos? Like, if let's say, okay, let me give you an example. If you talk to Jeff Bezos and he goes, Jack, listen, I think you've got the right idea. I'm going to give you $1 billion to make this happen. Is that enough money? And do we have a TicTac in 5 years with you in charge?
I think you probably need. It'll probably be. I don't know. That's a good question. It all depends. If the government has some actual vehicles, like we're told, like Jacques Vallée and these guys from various, I have a whole.
Do you believe that? Do you believe the government has already engineered TicTacs?
Oh no, they haven't engineered. They don't know how it works. They may have the vehicles, but they don't know how it works. That's but if we could get to those vehicles, then we could have it done maybe in $1 billion in 2 years. Okay,
$1 billion in 2 years.
Yeah, if we had access to the actual retrieved vehicles. Or even crash debris, stuff like that. So that'll give us a.
But what if we don't? What if we don't have access to that?
Then it just it's gonna $1 billion is not enough. What do you do $1 billion? An airplane, single. How much does an F-35 cost? $500 million.
So is this why nobody wants to invest in this technology?
Well, I don't know, but the point is this: first of all, they don't want to invest because they're stupid. They don't know about it. Okay, they hear that. I'll tell you this: if I get Jeff Bezos in a room, in 30 minutes, he'd give me a blank check, because I could talk to these guys. Okay, I know. Jeff Bezos, any of them. What's that? Elon Musk. But they're all too into their goddamn egos with their rocket ships. They're all enamored of their fucking rocket ships, which is stupid technology. And
I get that. But couldn't somebody equally say you're enamored with your goddamn ego because you believe you're right, and this is, if you just give me a blank check, then I'll make it a reality?
No. Well, yeah, you could say that, but the point is this. The point is this. At the best of circumstances, they're stupid rocket ships. They're not going to get to the stars.
Right.
You know why, right? It's not going to get
to
the stars. Okay. And people are going to go, it's not even going to get to Mars. The radiation sickness, the health problems, the psychological problems. What happened here? The psychological problems.
Would you move? Would you need?
Yeah. Okay. I got it.
Good. Okay.
The radiation issues, the psychological problems, the social problems. The point is, you can get to the moon in a couple of minutes. You get to Mars in maybe 2 hours, or maybe less with the new technology. It's certainly much better. And also, you don't have to worry about time delays. We can go to a star, to an exoplanet, and get back in in maybe a week. Maybe
it wouldn't be a week to an Earthling, right?
Well, no, we could do it without time delays. That's the other thing. See
how? What? Yeah, I'm curious. What are your?
Well, that's if you read the Alcubierre paper, that first paper. There's no time dilation. That's one of the good things about it. It's not like going in a rocket ship, like the twin paracks are coming back, and 1,000 years have gone by with only 1 year on the ship. That's special relativity. That's if you're moving through space. That's not warp. Warp drive is totally different. You can control time. That's
right.
Okay, it's like
because you're bending space time. You're not traveling through it.
We're controlling the way time flows. And the thing is this: in Star Trek, Q. Remember Q? That guy Q, the Q continuum. It's like that. That's the technology we're talking about. And by the way, there's a story. Gene Roddenberry got his ideas for Star Trek through seance sessions he was having with Andrea Paharovich, the same people I was involved with. We're all connected in a kind of. Gene Roddenberry is part of the others. He's part of the team. Okay, because a lot of the stuff in Star Trek is really going to happen. We're making Star Trek real. Okay, it's
It's
really good.
exciting. Yeah, I mean, you got my interest, Jack Sarfatti.
Yeah, well, yeah. Sarfatti. It's
Sarfatti,
Sarfatti,
like Mataluni,
like a Maserati
like
and
Maserati.
Lamborghini. And, okay, it's Sarfatti. All right. So there we are. That's making these extraordinary claims. And now what should happen? What should happen is that people like Elizondo and Putoff and Mellon should engage me directly with Keith Wanza and people. We should, so like a football game, like wrestling. I mean, intellectual and argue these things. I said,
I agree with you, man. I agree with you, man.
What's wrong with this equation? What's wrong with what I just said? I said something about the equivalence principle. What's wrong with that? Can you show us your argument and let people, have an open debate?
Well, I agree with that, but again, Chris Mellon is not a theoretical physicist. Like you can't expect people who speak a different language than you to debate on the same level.
Yeah, but then they're saying, no, but Chris Mellon's telling everybody, don't listen to Sarfatti. He doesn't know what he's talking about. So he shouldn't be saying that because he's not a theoretical physicist. Neither should Elizondo.
I agree. I think that's unfair. I think if
not only that is unfair, it's against U.S. national security because the Russians take me very seriously. See, that's the other thing. The Russians videoed me on all this stuff years ago when Obama was president. But yeah, I didn't know as much then as I know now. But
good thing.
Yeah. Well, no,
you're gonna give away all your secrets to the Russians, Jack Sarfatti.
The point is, I have no secrets. It's hidden in plain sight. Sight. I have no secrets. This is meant to happen. This is bigger than politics. Okay?
Right. You're saying this is all going to happen. This is destined. There's no turning back.
There's no turning back. It's going to happen one way or the other. So this is all part of the play. This is the destiny matrix. We're just what did Shakespeare say? The world's a stage, and we're just playing our parts. We're so that's what's going on here. And I guess that's also the fact that there's all this conflict and drama makes a much better story, right? If I was getting along with Colonel Alexander and Chris Mellon and Louis Elizondo, that'd be pretty boring. Nobody paid attention.
I agree, but don't you think? I mean, there are people starving on this planet. There are people who need if this was for real. If Jack, if we could produce this and solve the world's energy problems, if we could solve, the scarcity problem in the world, that we don't have time to be, being dicks to one another to get there. This is not okay.
I agree. So I agree with you. So, but the ball is in their court. They have to come up and play the game properly. I agree with that. By the way, exoplanets. There are probably many habitable exoplanets out there, like virgin Earths. And with this technology, we could transport billions of people to these exoplanets.
I mean, we discover a new planet in the habitable zone, almost daily now. It's extraordinary.
This is the technology to actually get there with large numbers. So what the hell is Elon Musk doing with his stupid little rocket and his little stupid things he's doing?
I know. Colonizing Mars is about the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
And doing rockets, it's so stupid. That the guy, he's smart. These are what Einstein called them intelligent fools. These are very intelligent fools. Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Branson, all these guys, they're rockets. They should be at least investigating this. They're not.
So do you have anybody that's starting to bite on this who actually has investment capital?
No. Not
no. Nobody.
No.
But you have theoretical physicists who are like, oh shit, Jack's got.
Wait. There are a couple of people that I suspect might. They're called, one guy's name is called Vladimir Putin. The other guy is called, what's his name? The president of China?
Xi Jinping,
yeah. Because by the way, who's doing most of the best work in metamaterials? The Chinese, Chinese communists. And then also Hong Kong, but they're running Hong Kong now. And see, the thing is, I had the Russians know about me from actually from the 1970s and the 1980s, because I was involved in the Reagan administration in helping plan the Strategic Defense Initiative, and we had back channel communications with Soviet physicists back then. So the Russians take my ideas quite seriously, and I can only assume that that I first gave a talk on metamaterials and low power warp drive at 2011. October 2011, that's 10 years ago now, in Orlando, Florida. It was a DARPA NASA meeting, and General Pete Worden, who had retired from the Air Force Space Command, he was Brigadier General with a PhD in astrophysics. He was running NASA Ames, and I knew him, and he invited me to give this paper. And in that paper, I talked about metamaterials, slowing down of light, flying saucers, and warp drive. I talked about this 10 years ago. As a result of that, there were Russians there. As a result of that, I was actually videoed by a Russian film crew on my ideas at that, back then. So I know that they're monitoring it and they take it seriously. So that's why it's very bad for people like Chris Mellon and Elizondo and everybody in that camp to to try to stop me from talking to Marco Rubio and the other senators that are trying to investigate what's going on. And there's a guy named Randolph Stone who's in Pentagon Inspector General's office. He's supposed to be investigating this, and he still hasn't gotten in touch with me to at least find out what the hell we have to say about this. So they're discounting it, and that's a big intelligence failure. That's as big an intelligence failure as 9/11.
So let me ask you this. Do you think that the amount of money that it would take in order to develop the type of metamaterials required to make this a functional reality is the point at which these folks just don't want to put the time and energy into it? Or do you think they just think it's bunk? Or do you think it's just personal and ego driven?
Oh, no. Well, no, I doubt that Jeff Bezos knows what's going on about this. I doubt he knows. If he knew, he's not a stupid man. Okay, he didn't become the richest man in the world because of being stupid. If he knew, if he could hear me talk, he'd probably he'd want to get into it. These guys are busy guys, and they have staffs. They're in a bubble, and they don't get to hear everything. It's like the president of the United States, whoever the president is. They're in a bubble too. They only hear what their staff allows them to hear. It's the same thing,
right? So you think it's just it's an information barrier?
It's an information barrier, yeah. Information barrier and coupled with a stupidity barrier.
All right. So basically, the idea is that if we can develop metamaterials to the point at which we can get to the atomic level, that this is what you believe the TicTac is. This is why you think it doesn't take the energy.
Yeah, it's that this is the only possible solution permitted by mainstream standard physics, and it's actually elementary. To a physicist, it's pretty once you show the physicist the idea, it's why didn't I think of that? It's elementary. It's not that it's hard, but we don't need string theory. We don't need 11 dimensions. We don't need all this exotic stuff. This is just basic grunt everyday physics that guys are doing in the laboratories. We just have to mobilize them and give them this objective. See, what you have to have, it's not just the metamaterial sitting there. You have to pump the metamaterial with electromagnetic fields of the special frequency. So you have to. It's like a laser. Like a laser. The laser. You have to pump energy into the laser, and that energy gets converted into a coherent beam of light. Okay. In a similar way, you have to activate the metamaterial, which is like a lasing medium, and it actually generates inside the material. It generates the analog to a laser beam. It's very much like a laser. The mathematics. It's a coherent field of what are called quasi-particles inside the metamaterial, and that amplifies the coupling between the electromagnetic energy you're pumping in and the gravitational field you're getting out. Also,
so is the problem here that engineers and theoretical physicists don't play in the same sandbox together enough? Is this the problem?
Yes, that's the problem. Well, yeah, that and you have to have money. You have to pay these guys.
Right.
You have to pay the guys. The laboratories are expensive. the theoretical physics, the theoretical physics part is pretty cheap. That's not the expensive part.
But we pump in millions to study string theory.
Yeah, well, that's unfortunately. See, that's part of the. That's how I could go into that.
Okay. We don't have to spend a bunch of time in academia, but
yeah, but string theory. But let me just say, string theory is hype. It's a bunch of bullshit, and it was it was a fashion. In fact, I'm not the only. I mean, Roger Penrose just won a Nobel Prize, right? Roger Penrose, black holes with Hawking. Roger Penrose wrote a book called Faith, Fashion, and Fantasy, and other physicists. I'm not the only one saying it. I mean, they've spent all this money on string theory. It's come to nothing. There's a little bit in solid state. They've applied a little bit of the Lenny Susskind's hologram ideas to condensed matter physics, but it's not. It was a waste of money, a waste of time, a waste of talent, a waste of careers, a waste of careers. A dead end. It's sort of, I mean, that happened.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. It makes a lot of sense. I mean, and I think, if, man, you smart ass motherfuckers with your giant egos, if y'all could just get along, I swear to God, this world will be in a better place. You too, Jack Sarfatti. You too.
No, hey, I'm willing to get along. I get along.
Are you?
Of course. Well, listen, I'm laughing at these.
We are having a good time. You're having fun with me.
I'm willing to shake hands with Chris and bring. In fact, I'm willing to be the intermediary between his cousin John Warner and Chris, and they should, all be nice. We could all go. We all go to. We could all go to some retreat, and
Essalon. You all go to Essalon, hang out, do psychedelics, and then we can. Oh, Jack Sarfatti.
Yeah. So the point is this: hey, I'm ready to communicate. I'm always communicating.
Okay.
These guys, they're not communicating, and they should be. See, they should be, because that's they're not doing due diligence. They're not doing their duty to the truth and to the country. This is also a defense issue.
Well, I think we need more forums with you guys actually having conversations across over specialized academic.
Well, if you want to do something, you can now contact Elizondo and Chris Mellon and Eric Davis and John Alexander, and these are various guys. You know who they are. And so what you let's get a thing, and I'll have Keith Wanza. Now the thing is this, okay, this will have to be like in late December or January before he starts. I'm taking off for London in about a week, and I'm going to be doing my stuff in London, going to Rome, and maybe meeting with the Italian military is quite interested in what I'm doing. I'm working with an Italian Air Force intelligence guy over in Rome there.
What is synchronicity? I'm trying to get my Italian citizenship back. My both my grandparents are Italian, so
where?
I'll see you over there. Maddaloni. That's the village my father's family came from.
What part of Italy is that?
Cambria, I believe.
Cambria, yes,
yeah, right by Naples-ish area.
Yeah. Well, they're trying to. The people in Cortona in Tuscany, where they're trying to build a group there. But we'll see. I don't know. I've also been to Sicily, to Catania. But
beautiful country.
Yeah. Great.
Jack, so, I think you're more affable than people make you out to be, man.
Oh yeah, I'm very affable. I'm the milk of human kindness. I mean,
I didn't say that. Calm down.
Well, I used to do a lot of, in college. I did a lot of Gilbert and Sullivan. Satiric operetta. I don't know. Do you know Gilbert and Sullivan?
Yeah.
I was the lead tenor at Cornell.
Oh my goodness! All right. Well,
okay.
Jack,
so are there questions?
Yeah.
Some questions. Let's see.
Yeah. Okay. So if you guys are out there in the chatterverse, they've been asking the question. I've been an asshole. I've been ignoring the chat. So if you guys have questions specifically for Jack, now is your opportunity to ask. Let's see. I can actually go back a little bit too. I've got some a bit further back. Zero Cool wants to know, how old are you, Jack?
I was just 82.
Just a spry 82. Christopher Plain from the Debrief says, Jack, did you call me dumb in an email earlier this week?
Yes, you're a dummy. You're a dummy. Christopher.
Don't talk about my Christopher playing that way.
Yeah, you know why? You know
Why?
He didn't even mention my name. He mentioned Hal White, who was never even interviewed by Tim Ventura. Never even interviewed. He didn't do his homework. And he talks about Emmett Doc Brown and didn't mention that I was the model for Emmett Doc Brown in the actual movie because of my hanging out
Jack,
with Coppola.
Jack, don't you think you're being a little egocentric right now?
No, not at all, because I'm the of everybody, and this is the truth. I'm saying because it happens to be true, not because I'm an egomaniac.
Okay, cool. Well, Chris is still in love with you, by the way. He still loves you.
No, but yeah, I love him too. As under he's still a schmuck.
I don't know. He's not a schmuck. All right, go ahead. What?
In Brooklyn, in New York, that's the way we talk. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what we talk. All right. Now the point, it's like, it's like the blacks when they talk their talk, their ghetto talk. We have ghetto talk too. This is Jewish ghetto talk.
Oh my God, what am I going to do with you?
All right. Now listen. The point is this. Here's this guy, Chris, and he's talking about most of the guys he talked about didn't actually solve the problem. The one guy who solves the problem, he doesn't even mention him. He mentions that, he doesn't even, he should have, he gives Harold White, or was it White, Sonny White? He gives it, Sonny White never appeared on the Tim Ventura show. And it's about the Tim Ventura show. And he gives him a lot of coverage. It doesn't mention me, who was actually on the show. I mean, actually, that pissed a lot of people off. I was told, people, I'm not the only one who felt that. So he didn't do a good job because he doesn't understand the issue. See, the problem is that most journalists, they don't know any physics at all. They don't even know what a fraction is. They can't do elementary. They don't know what a limit is. They don't know if I say, if the denominator goes to 0, then the expression gets big. If I say that, they don't know. So if you don't know that, then you can't understand what's happening. Unfortunately, that's a fact. We're living in a technological, scientific age, and if you can't speak, the ABCs of it, you're not going to understand anything, and you won't know bullshit from the real thing, which is what we see in Chris's article. He doesn't know, what he doesn't know, what from Shinola. So
what specific can you be specific? Like what would you have liked to have seen in the article that you didn't see? What was the problem?
I would like to have seen him mention that Jack Sarfatti thinks he has actually solved the problem. He solved the energy problem. Okay. And that the technology is not difficult. It's elementary physics. And the only thing that's stopping us is people's stupidity. That's all.
All right. Well, he's Googling what a fraction is now, and then hopefully he'll be able to write that next article.
He has to Google. You see, if he has to Google, he's kidding, right?
He's joking, Jack. Come on, man.
Okay, he's joking. But the point is, I wonder, I have to give him a test and see how much. All right. So, all right. So let's get on. What's the next question? Let's get on.
Who else has got a question out here? How far into the future is a conscious computer? How far away into the future is the conscious computer?
Well, now somebody asked this question on Tim Ventura thing. I don't really. All I know is I have some evidence that that a conscious computer from 50 years from now contacted us about 50 years ago. I have some evidence for that. Direct evidence from Brendan O'Regan. Remember that guy, that CIA guy, told Brendan O'Regan, SRI, and a guy named Saul Paul Sarag, and a woman named Barbara Honegger. And this is a whole story. I don't think we have time to go into the story with a psychic that the CIA was testing at SRI called Ingo Swann. And Ingo Swann went into a trance in which he started speaking in the same kind of cold metallic computer voice, said he was a computer on board a flying saucer 100 years in the future, and that was like almost 50 years ago.
So
50 years then. The answer is 50 years. If you know fractions.
Around that. Now, at least that we may have that technology in about 50 years from now, which is going back in time and causing a lot of this weirdness now.
The weird loop. Simon Fly wants to know, will Jack debate Avi Loeb live on the Singularity Lab?
I don't know if I have to debate him. He's a nice Jewish boy. What am I going to debate? We'll probably agree. Martin Rees.
Well, I've interviewed Avi a couple of times. One of the things he mentions is that when you talk about when you talk about technology that's advanced theoretical physics, that a lot of it's poetry. He doesn't want to spend time there. He wants to spend time.
No, that's bullshit. First of all, I'm not talking advanced. I'm talking elementary theoretical physics.
Oh, fair enough.
I'm talking elementary. I'm talking about stuff that could be taught junior, senior level at Harvard or MIT. Okay. I'm not talking about advanced physics. It's elementary physics.
Zero Cool wants to know, how much money did the CIA give you?
Well, enough so I could do what I'm doing.
So all your the money that appears in your bank account is all from the CIA, or are there other agencies we should know about?
I don't ask. I don't. Not ostensibly. It's not ostensibly from the CIA. That's not the way it works.
Where's it from, Jack?
I don't. All I know.
How do I get that?
Well, you're not Jack Sarfatti. You're not doing that. You're not doing consciousness physics, and you're not doing warp drive. You're not explaining flying saucers. You're not, but you're doing something now. So maybe what you're doing now is going to be part of the story.
Yeah, maybe we'll see.
Well, obviously, it is part of the story.
Obviously. Let's see.
Well, yes, before Avi Loeb should be talking to me. Yes, we should go on and talk about the details and watch us do our physics.
All right. I can set that up.
Yeah, let me show you what'll happen. Here, okay. Does this?
Okay.
Wait a minute, let me. Oh, okay. I'll write down. G over C to the fourth. Can you see it? I'll write this down.
Yeah, we can see it.
G to C to the fourth, and I'll say C goes to 0. G C to the fourth goes to infinity, and I'll say that's the idea. And Avi will say, Avi, what do you disagree with? I'll say, it'll be more detailed than this. I'm just giving you an idea. We're going to be talking math, elementary math. This is not advanced physics, okay?
Oh, I'm looking forward to this.
It's more than poetry. It's not just poetry. It's calculations. It's numbers, predictions. It's real physics. I got a PhD in physics from the University of California. I studied with Hans Bethe, Nobel, who built head of theoretical physics of the Manhattan Project. I mean, this is not bullshit. This is the real thing.
I think it's hard for people, Jack, because you've got your theoretical physics chops, but you also talk about TicTac's calling you from the future. It's difficult for people to believe both.
That's because they're stupid.
That's not because they're stupid.
No, they're stupid. No, they're stupid. They're stupid.
Jack, how many people have you come across in your life that have told you something that is very unbelievable, and you're like, you're a fucking idiot, and then you just don't, and you're just like,
yeah, right. The point is, if they had all the facts, okay.
But you weren't there. You weren't there. Right. Go ahead.
Up until October 7th, 2017, up until December 2017, they could have said that. But now that the Pentagon has admitted all this stuff, that's the only.
Right, but Jack, just because in 2017 that they've admitted this, now I can come out and say anything I want about UFOs? No, that's not how it works.
But I'm not saying, but that's not what I'm doing. That's a straw man. That's not what
I'm
doing.
not saying that's what you're doing, but I'm saying anyone could.
Well, anyone could, but they don't have a PhD in physics. They don't, they could be, some schmuck on the street can say anything he wants. Okay.
So that's all so having a PhD in physics is all it takes then?
No, but my whole history, it's been that the CIA asked me to work on this stuff 50 years ago, and I've been doing it.
And how much are they paying you? I'm teasing. You don't have to answer that. I'm teasing.
It's been different at different times.
All right. What's that?
It's been different at different times. It's been
I'm
very
sure.
different in the last 25 years. And I can't say I know it's the CIA. I don't know. But it's
Jeremy Reese wants to know if you'll be going to IRG this weekend in Tucson.
I'm not going to. What the hell is IRG? I don't know what IRG is.
I'm going to take that as a no.
I'm going to SHIT. I mean, what the hell is that? I'm going to London the next weekend. I'm getting ready to go to London. What you got to do? Go to London. You got to get this test and that test and this. You got to fill this form and that form. I mean, it's like
This is like the two nice Italian boys going at it. Says Delta. This is like hanging out with my family. Like, you guys don't worry about me. Campbell says this is the most exasperated I've seen Michael. You guys don't worry about me. This is like easy compared to a family reunion. I promise you.
And then your mother's making spaghetti for everybody, and
we all eat. It's beautiful. Hey, This is beautiful.
Yeah, life is beautiful.
He did you ever do the LSD in the 70s and 60s?
A couple of times I did it at Esalen, a few times, not much. Even though I stayed with Timothy Leary at his Beverly Hills mansion, and Leary was with us in Esalen. I did a little bit. I also did a little bit with this guy Marshall Nafee, this movie mogul Marshall Nafee, but maybe I did it maybe 4 or 5 times max.
And any interesting perspectives did that give you? Did I'm curious? Did like your experience, because you talk about, when it comes to psychedelics, set and setting, right? It's your own mentality plus.
I was okay. Well, there's this guy Marshall Nafee. He's dead now. Billionaire. He was Marshall was the head of United Artists Theaters. His father was a friend of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and in fact, when Marshall was a kid, when Marshall was a young man, when it was like 1938, I guess right before the war, he and Gary Cooper did a tour of Europe. They were met the King of Denmark, that sort of thing. He was kind of a playboy, and but he was kind of like when I knew him. I first met him in 1975 or so, 1974 in North Beach, the bohemian part of North Beach, and at that point, he was already worth a couple of $1 billion. He's one of the creators of Comcast, one of the Comcast and United Artists and movies. Oh yeah, he was a financial partner with Al Broccoli in all the James Bond movies. In fact, he had one of Sean Connery's black Aston Martin convertibles in his Pacific Heights mansion that we used to go. Okay, so any case, but he was kind of a wizard. He was kind of like a Don Juan sorcerer. and we did it. I did acid with him, I think twice. And we're doing the acid. We were suddenly, it was like time travel. I was in a green emerald, like ancient Egyptian place. And Marshall was like, he's like, I guess I don't know if he was not a pharaoh, but like a wizard, some kind of Egyptian wizard. And there was a thing I had
a high priest or something,
like a high priest sort of thing, and we do it, and then so it was like I was really there. It was like a time travel thing, that sort of thing. And another trip I had with him, I was a Templar knight. I was a Templar knight. I was in a battle, and I had I guess I was I was in a battle. I maybe had a spear. I'm not sure. Oh yeah, and another one, I was in the trenches of World War One. The battle in World War One. It's like past life flash.
Right.
Very realistic. Yeah, so I had that.
Fascinating. Carl says, can you ask Jack what Ingo Swann was told by the computer voice?
Yeah, right. So Ingo, they were testing him at Stanford Research Institute. And I didn't quite get there's a guy named Saul Paul Sirac who's still alive, who told me the story. You could get him to come on. And Barbara Hanukkah was pretty well known. Barbara Hanukkah, she's an interesting background. I think Barbara's still alive. You should maybe sometime invite them on if you want to do a high strangeness, a weirdness, sort of spooky sort of show. And I'm sure he still remembers. But it was they were doing something, and Ingo suddenly went into a trance. He was like a trance meeting. He was an artist, a psychic thing. He was a remote viewer. And he went into this trance, and he spoke in this cold metallic voice, like the one I heard. Okay, this is in the 70s. And he said it was a conscious computer on board a flying saucer 100 years in the future. So I guess this was around early 80s, late 70s, early 80s. That's around 40 years ago. So that would be 60 years from now. And there was something about the red light going to green light. I don't remember the full context. But What struck me was it was a cold metallic voice saying it was a conscious computer aboard a spacecraft, a flying saucer from the future.
You're like, that sounds familiar.
Oh, that sounds familiar. Okay. The other thing is there was a recent meeting. You can see this online. It's called Gauss. There's an Italian group in Firenze, and the whole meeting was about flying saucers from the future. I'm not the only one. There's a guy named
Michael Masters,
Michael, yeah, Michael May. Okay, so
Yeah.
he is not a physicist, but he is some kind of anthropologist, and he's done some he's deduced that they have to be coming from the future for various. I mean, he gives a nice argument.
It's pretty, it's compelling.
Yeah, compelling. That has nothing to do with my physics, but fits the physics. Okay, and there are other people too. I'm not the only. There's a Diane Tessman. There's a whole bunch. It's a lot of people. It's been taught. It's not like it's a new idea.
No, and it's a fascinating, hypothesis. I've certainly considered it myself.
Well, it's part of general relativity. The time travel. The only thing stopping time travel to the past is the energy problem. And possibly quantum gravity, which is, it's just bullshit because now we know that we're seeing these things flying. But see, as soon as you have warp drive, even if you have a warp drive that's hovering, not going anywhere, if it's hovering, that thing in principle can time travel. In fact, if you got to my slides, I actually have a picture of that. But all right. But any other questions? Let's just stand.
Any final questions? We're going to wrap up here in just a couple minutes. So if you have any final questions for Jack, let us know right now. I think Chris Plain has one. Have you ever been abducted or experienced missing time?
Well, this is what I was trying to tell you about. I didn't hear. There is the 3 weeks of alleged phone calls in 1953 from the from the cold metallic voice saying it was
when your mother said there were multiple phone calls.
There were 3 weeks, and she witnessed it. So I wasn't really abducted, but I don't remember it.
Case for Infinity says, why do craft wobble in the air or fall like a leaf falling?
I don't know. Hal Puthoff has a theory why that is, and I'm not sure if that's even true. Why they're wobbling? Because maybe they're not computing the warp drive field properly or something. They can't do it.
You also have to consider how people perceive things, right? Because like you have Dietrich and Fravor. Dietrich perceived the TicTac as having like falling like erratically, whereas Fravor perceived it as moving very intentionally and incredible speeds.
Yeah. Now, that part of that could be what's called gravitational lensing. You see, because the space-time, the gravitational field bends light. There's gravitational lensing, and so some of what that wobble could be just the warp field changing, and the light. It's distorting the light that's coming toward us, so it looks like it's wobbling. I'm not sure. That would. It's
Does the CIA have metamaterial?
Well, they haven't shown me it. How do I know? How should I know? They don't I don't even. Okay. Now wait a minute. Okay, do have something to say. I have to be careful how I say it.
Okay.
A close friend who is a fairly prominent person today, so I'm not going to identify him. If he wants to somehow identify himself at some point, he can. But he was this friend of mine. First of all, his father worked with Kenneth Arnold, and he was a little boy in 1947 when Kenneth Arnold, who started the whole flying saucer flap. Okay, so that's an interesting synchronicity. He grew up in Idaho, and his father did work for Kenneth Arnold, who's the first guy who said he saw the flight of flying saucers. The mountain somewhere, was in Washington, wherever it was. So that's an interesting piece of high weirdness, right? That he knew Kenneth Arnold, grew up with Kenneth Arnold. And then he went into the Marines. He was a tank commander in the Marines. Saw some action. And when he got out of the Marines, he went to art school, studied with some famous artists, like really Henry Moore. He's a sculptor, well-known sculptor, painter. And he had a foundry. He had a foundry in Oakland, one of the few people who have a foundry. And I guess his brother, I think, was a colonel in the Marines. So what happened was around the late 60s, he was contacted by a CIA guy we don't know what his real name was, but his official name was Colonel Harry Wolf. And he was asked, because of his Marine service, I guess, he was asked to become a courier for the CIA in the late 60s. Okay.
and he was given materials, allegedly retrieved what he thinks. Okay, well, one thing, he had this army bag. It said AAAF, 1940. It was from Roswell. It said Roswell, whatever. And in it was some of the Roswell material.
Mm.
He actually had it. He actually had it as he had a thing that a thing with the strut with the symbols on it. This is a guy I know personally. He's a straight arrow, but he wouldn't lie. Doesn't lie. Okay. And he's a very prominent person. He's connected with very powerful people. Okay. And he's just did a major job for a big Silicon Valley company. Okay. He's a very well-known guy. Doesn't lie. He's just, I trust him. He's a guy I'd want to have in a foxhole with a battle. He's a guy. He's a Marine, man. Semper Fi. Okay. Cowboy too. He's like a Clint Eastwood type guy. Okay. And he, being a sculptor, he does steel. He was trying to puncture it. It hardly weighed anything, and it suddenly acted like it was floating. Okay. And he had this, and he took pieces of material. He took it to MI6 in London. He took it to Hong Kong. He took it to France. He was flying. They had him flying on commercial flights, carrying material to give to various scientists and labs. This is in the late 60s. Okay, so this is a fact. This is a guy I can trust what this guy says.
He told you all this.
Oh yeah, I told him. Oh, absolutely. I'm sure at some point he may make it come public and say it. He doesn't give a shit. He's 80 years old too. He's not gonna, and he's a patriot. He's a Marine, man. Marines, they're still Marines. He hangs out with important Marines, believe me, like the former commandant of the Marines. Okay. So, this is
pretty wild. It's pretty wild, Jack.
Yeah. And so I wouldn't be saying this if it wasn't true. Nothing I say is not true to the best of my ability.
Right. But you have to respect people because there's so many people out there just talking out of their assholes. You have to understand. You have to respect the fact that people can't just take you at face value, Jack. That's not. You can't expect that.
Well, I do expect it because the reason I expect it is because now it's been made official by the Pentagon itself, by the government. Senator Marco Rubio, the people in the Senate are taking it seriously.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying we don't take this seriously. I'm not suggesting that.
So, and I'm claiming I can prove everything I'm saying, and I could. You
don't have the metamaterial that the dude talked to you about. You can't prove that.
No, you're wrong. Okay, what I can show is where is the if you get my slideshow up, I could show. I could be very specific what I'm trying to say. Can you get that slideshow up quickly? But can you scroll through it fast? Because just go through this through the slides. Let me be very clear what I'm saying and why I am adamant. Okay, go next one. Next one. Keep going. Oh wait, stop. Wait. Okay, wait. Okay, these are from Hal Puthoff slides. Good stuff about. Okay, but keep going. Keep going. Soviet stuff. Putin. Stop. Stop for a minute. All right. Okay. Stop. Okay. Stop. Go back there. Go back. That thing of me with the Russians. Okay. There. Okay. See this? This is me. Right? This is Russian television. This is Russia. When I say the Russians take me seriously, why would they have me up on this is like their 60 Minutes. This is a top Channel 5. This is the guy who owns this this channel is a close friend of Vladimir Putin. So when I say the Russians take me seriously, here's proof. Here's smoking gun proof.
Right, but what does that mean? What are you saying? What is that supposed to mean?
What I'm saying is that I'm a popular figure in Russian television.
Right, but that's I get that, but I don't know what that's supposed to tell me about the Marine who told you that he has metamaterials. Like because you were on Russian TV doesn't mean.
No, but what I'm saying is no, but it does if you think for a minute.
Okay.
That this doesn't happen to any schmuck on the street in San Francisco. This happens. This is all vetted by the Russian military and the intelligence and Vladimir Putin's top intelligence guys to have this, on there. Okay, so means
right. But if the Russians wanted, if the Russians were, they're if they believed absolutely everything you said, they wouldn't have you on Russian television.
No.
Why would they have you on Russian television? Why wouldn't they have you in a bunker somewhere working on this? Building TicTacs, Jack.
Yeah, well, the point, because they have their own side. They don't need me to build the TicTacs. All they need, I've done my job. The idea is so simple that anybody can build a TicTac. Now, what they have, the right team and the right investment, anybody can. The Russians can do it. The Chinese, the Iranians are interested too. I know the Iranians are interested in Tehran.
Who would not be interested in a TicTac?
Okay, so no, but the point is this. The point is, this is what I'm saying. This is evidence that the Russians are aware of what Jack Sarfatti is thinking and doing. Okay,
that I get. That I understand.
That's it. Okay, let's go on. Keep going.
Okay,
next slide. Okay, that. I'm in this book. I was at. This is a book about a KGB general who defected. This is that I was involved in evaluating some Soviet intelligence. This is okay. So, in any case, if you get this book, you'll see my name in it. But go on to the next one. Okay, keep going. Oh, okay. There's the. Let's go there. There's the cartoon. Somebody made a cartoon. Go back.
This is the cartoon.
Go back one slide. Go. Okay, there's the story. So slow. Yeah, let's go next one. And that's
right. And yeah.
Okay, so that's basically. I mean, it's been even made into cartoons. There's a book. Okay, keep going. That's okay. There's the metamaterial. That's allegedly, if you go back.
And people can find this on your Vimeo, right?
On Vimeo, yes, so you can watch it. But keep going. There's something I want to get to. Oh, there's something about the metamaterial. This is all, by the way, Hal Puthoff from Hal Puthoff stuff.
Okay.
Keep going. Okay, keep going. That's Puthoff saying, keep going. What did I see? Well, they want mad. You keep going. Okay. Oh, medical. Okay.
Maybe we missed it. What was it that you wanted to? What was it that you wanted to discuss?
What I want to say is that.
Why don't you tell? Why don't you? What do you want to leave with people? Like, what do you want people to know about Jack Sarfatti? What is important that people walk away from this conversation with?
Yeah, what I want them to know is that the basic facts, as given by Commander Fravor, other Navy pilots, by Kevin Day, who was the radar officer on the USS Princeton, if you accept those facts as being true, there's only one explanation, and an obvious one, elementary physics explanation of how that's all possible. And that's the one that I am talking about. There's only one. It's like Newton's laws. It's like Newton's law of gravity. There's only one law of gravity. And it's not like it's difficult. As soon as you get the point, it's pretty obvious. So it's elementary physics that can be taught certainly sophomore year, junior year relativity course. Okay, and some elementary solid state physics. It's not difficult. Standard stuff, mainstream stuff, basic mainstream stuff. There's just one little idea that you need. Okay, so then whenever you hear anybody like Louis Elizondo, anybody else saying, "Oh, we don't understand it. This is 1,000,000 years in the future, 1,000 years in the future," that's bullshit. That's what they don't know. Don't listen to those people. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. They're just not. If either they're lying, either they do know the truth and they're lying because they don't, for whatever reason, they're lying, or they're so stupid they don't understand. They're just pretending to be experts in something they're not expert in, because the basic understanding of the phenomena is quite easy in terms of battle-tested mainstream physics. So that's the idea. That's my message.
And if people want to learn more or follow you, how do they do that?
You just Google Jack Sarfatti and on Vimeo, and there are plenty of videos, and YouTube, Vimeo and YouTube.
Amazing. Jack, it was an absolute pleasure spending time with you. I think I would love for some of these other folks who, maybe you don't get along with right now. Maybe we could work it out and have some conversations.
I'm easy to get along with. The point is they're afraid. They're all afraid. They're lacking cojones.
They're afraid to come over to Brooklyn and have the theoretical physics conversation.
They're afraid to rumble. It's like West Side Story, right?
All right, Jack. Well, it was a pleasure, man. We'll talk to you soon. I appreciate you joining the Singularity Lab. Make sure you check out Jack Sarfatti. You can see Sarfatti.
You're Italian. You're Italian.
Sarfatti. Jack Sarfatti. All right. Check him out on Twitter. Find him on Vimeo. Find him on YouTube. Later, y'all. Oh, I don't have my co-host here to do my outro. Later, guys.